Hey y'all, it's Steve, Hobo with Wood, and this video is going to be kind of a conglomeration of different tips and tricks that I've been using this week. I planned on showing you some design work, but these seem a little bit more relevant. So hang around, there's going to be a lot of good things in this one. So I've been working on this video all week, and when I woke up this morning, Louisiana Hobby Guy, she had posted a video, why your slots and tabs don't work, or something along those lines. And I panicked a little bit because I'm like, oh no, he just released a video on a topic that I'm working on and have been working on throughout this week. But it's totally different. If you haven't seen that video, you do want to jump over to his channel after watching this one and check that out, because it does have some really good advice and tips in it. So sometimes you get a design from sources. You might even get a design from me, from hobowithwood.com, that for some reason you have an issue, the slots and tabs are not wanting to resize. You can't get the resize tool to work in LightBurn. Now, I try to test every single one of the files I design and put up there, but man, there's so many things you have to do with these files. Sometimes you just forget, or I might be working on a design like this one. This was a collaboration file that we worked with on the Laser Makers realm that went through 3 different hands during the design process. Myself, Rich, and Patrick on Laser Makers realm, and all these different variations with different hands going back and forth. Well, some things may have been forgotten to be mentioned, or this or that. So ultimately, when the file that I shared got uploaded, the tabs for the Let Us Not Forget were longer and protruded through the material when you went to assemble. Well, the reason for that was this is 3mm, give or take, Baltic birch plywood, and I'm using solid ash for my base. And my bases were thicker than the Baltic birch, so I made my tabs longer. Well, I forgot to change that whenever I decided to share and sell the file. Well, I've had people commenting, hey man, these tabs are too long. Yeah. Yes, they're too long if you don't check the product before you use it. When you download any file, my files, Etsy files, Reddit files, whoever's, I don't know where you get them from. If you don't check your slots and tabs prior to making that, then if there's a problem, it's really ultimately on you. But sometimes you get these files and they don't want, the resab feature doesn't want to work. And that's what I'm going to show you now. And I got this file from one of my regular viewers and contributor to Laser Makers Realm and my channel. This is a gorgeous file, but there were some things that needed to be tweaked, and I made some modifications and really made the design my own. But the original concept of this is not mine, and I do not take credit for it. I don't know if this is his original design or he got it from somewhere else. So if you're watching this channel and you go, hey, that's my artwork. Well, I'm telling you, it's not mine. I have transformed it and kind of made it mine. But let me show you what I ran into and what you need to look out for and how you can fix these problems. So we're going to jump in here to LightBurn. And before I open this file, I'm going to show you another tip and trick on where I'm grabbing this file from and why I do this. Now, I use my art library. If you're not using your art library, you should be doing this. This is a godsend. You find that in your Windows, and right here is your art library. You can turn that on, and that will give you this tab over here. You are able to set up all kinds of new folders of your choice, create all these different folders for all your different artwork, A lot of the artwork I have here, it came from the Louisiana Hobby Guys forum, but then I have a lot of my own artwork in here too. But what I did is I've created a folder in my art library, and I call it WIP. And WIP is short for Work in Progress. And what I do is when I'm working on a file or a design, and it's not a finalized design, it's something that's just being worked on, and I'm interrupted and I have to go to a new job, I will open my WIP folder, copy or select that image and copy it into my WIP folder in my art library. So now when I'm ready to work on it, again, like this instance, I'm going to select this here. I've named it the easel and frame OG. Add it to the graphic, add graphic to project, and there it is. Excuse me. So this is part of the file that I received from my viewer, and this is not the complete file, but this is as I received it. And I wanted to show you what you will run into when you're trying to use the resize slots and tabs and how you get around these problems. Well, first thing, if you select your entire project and you come into Tools and Resize Slots in Selection, first thing you want to look down here is for any warnings. And right here, your selection contains the following unsupported items, grouped shapes. And if you try to look for any slots or tabs, there aren't any if you've got the right thicknesses in here. And that's another thing you got to look for is, what is that original thickness? Well, here everything's grouped, so it's not letting you see anything. So when you go to use this tool, everything has to be ungrouped. And if you're going to try and select this, you want to see what that size is, well, you can't, because that one is part of the group. So if I try to select just that object, I can't because it's grouped. Hit ungroup. One time there, what happened? Okay, but that's still grouped. I need to ungroup that again. That way, now everything's ungrouped, and I can select just this image, but we're going to select one of these on the horizontal. This tells me the height is 2.9 inches, and that should be the same here, 2.9, and the width of this one should be 2.9, and it is. So these slots are 2.9 millimeter. So if I select, and if these are 2.9, you would assume, but you know what happens when you assume that this is 2.9, this is 2.9, and this little tab up here is 2.9. But if you come in here and select all of these, because these are what have the slots, and you come now to your resize slots and shapes, put in your old material thickness of 2.9, and we're going to make it 2.7. And we want to change the slot width. It's still not seeing anything because we got this up here about grouped shapes. So, okay, well, I know this is grouped, but those in the group are not slots. It should be irrelevant. But why is it not letting us see everything? Well, let's just go ahead and ungroup all this. Ungroup you. Did I not have that all ungrouped? Did I hit group, group, group? Everything's ungrouped now, though, ain't it? Let's try that again. Tools, resize slots, 2.9 slot width. No, still not seeing anything. So now we know that that is 2.9, but it's still not seeing it. Why is it not seeing that? Well, if you come over here to your ruler, instead of using your select tool, and you zoom into here to look at that segment, those are two segments there. Two segments of 1.45 millimeters each. And I see that by highlighting that, and up in there in our measurements field, it shows us our segment length is 1.45 millimeters. So 1.45 millimeters is 2.9. Another way you can see this is if you select this item and you go into your nodes field, you'll see there's a node and there's a node. There's a node right in the middle of that. Well, you can hover over that node and hit the letter D. Do not hit the delete button, but hit the letter D. Same thing over here, hover and D. Now that eliminates that node, and there's one segment of 2.9 millimeters. And now let's see, with that one selected, go into resize slots and shapes, slot width 2.9. It's still not seeing that thickness, that 2.9 millimeters. Okay, so what do we do? Well, one thing I will do because after a while of doing these and working with people's files, they say, hey, can you fix this? I've learned one of the first things I do is I will take that entire image before I go through any other of these processes. I'll ungroup them all and all that, but then select it immediately, and first thing out of the gate, offset, 0 offset, and delete the original objects. And say OK. Now, when you do that though, everything is grouped again. So hit your ungroup until you've got all those singular tools, resize slots and selection, slot width, and look there. There's all of your slot widths. So when you get an image, that's one thing I would suggest is doing an offset, and it's going, when you do that, it's going to make any straight lines one continuous line without all those miscellaneous nodes in there. And anything that's not a correct shape, if it's I don't know what the deal is with them, if they're paths and not shapes or whatever, but for some reason, as you just seen, it does not recognize that as a rectangle or a slot, but when you do the offset, now it will. Now that we've got that corrected, let's look at this one and see what's going on here. This one, I have not done the offset yet, but let's look and see what this shows. All right, so there we see there's 2 segments. So we know right away that that is not going to show up. But if we go into that node editing and hit that delete button, and now go into tools, tools, and resize slots. We know it's 2.9, but look here. It's not getting the entire width, and you may have seen that when I zoomed out a second ago. That's because there are 2 nodes right here. Say cancel. See there? There are nodes halfway down that straight line. There's no reason for those nodes to be there because it is it should be a perfectly straight line. You can select these 2 nodes and hit the letter D for delete, and then when you go into tools and look for the 2.9 slot width, now you'll see that entire length. Or cancel, undo, put those back in there. There's that node in the middle up there and the 2 nodes there. And if we just do an offset, 0 offset, delete the original object, say OK. See, they're all gone. So that would be my first suggestion. Let's look at this one right here in nodes. See there? There's crazy nodes, one way up there, one here. And what happens there is a couple of different things. And you can see here, if you look close enough, that's not a straight line from here to here. You have a taper, and that might be a result of that node placement or not. And then when you get up here, by having these miscellaneous nodes in there, it can be an opportunity for this line to no longer be a straight line, but to start to deviate. So take that selection, offset, 0 offset, delete the original items. What did we do wrong there? Because they're still there. Offset, select, delete the original, OK. All right, so there you go. There's an instance where that offset didn't work. So that's why I'm showing you why these are like that and what you can do to fix these. Down here, you don't need these miscellaneous nodes in here. So you can just select those nodes and hit the letter D. select these, hit the letter D. D. Now, what you can do also, you already know that, what is this? Here's an instance where this is not squared off at the bottom. You've got some little arcs going on here instead of a straight line. So what I did here, we know we want a 2.9 millimeter slot in there. So I come, and this is the low point. So I would come down here. Oh, I'm gonna make sure I didn't mess nothing up. Rectangular tool. Come here, get my crosshairs, and draw a rectangle up here to the top. And I ain't worried about my width so much right now as I am just getting the approximate height. Say OK. Select tool. Let's put that on a tool path. Now that's selected. I can see my width isn't quite right. I'll put that at 2.9 millimeters. And that I didn't unlock the aspect ratio, so go back, unlock the aspect ratio, 2.9. So now I have the right approximate height and the width. Now with that selected, I'll select that shape. Hello. And put it in the center. There we go. Now what I'll do is, just so I don't get confused, I'll turn this toolpath off so you no longer see it. Select that, go into node editing, and delete that with the letter D. Same thing here. D, D, go in really tight. D, and letter D. Now those aren't quite flat going across there. And if you wanted to, you can get really, really super OCD about it and make that approximately there. Now turn your toolpath back on. You've already centered this. In fact, since you've centered that, you can say put that right in the corner there. Put this in the corner here. Letter S to smooth that out. Now, I'm going to select the original object, hold my shift key and select my toolpath, and come over here to my Boolean tools and use this one. This is A subtract B. And now I have a 2.9 millimeter slot that, with that in there, tools, resize slots and selection, slot width. It shows my old is 2.9, and if I want to change that, I can change it to 3.5. And it's going to move in the outward direction to make that larger. If I wanted to make it 2.7, now it shows you that it is moving inward. 2.7. Fingers, fat fingers. Okay. So that's how you fix these issues. And we still have this slot up here. Let's see if there's any issues with it. If we select it and go into the nodes, yeah, there's all kinds of extra nodes in there. If we hit the offset tool, and that's not just here, it's also on this slot up here and these tabs. None of this figure would not work with resizing slots and tabs at all because of all of these extra nodes. If we use offset, select resulting objects, delete the original objects, 0 offset. And let's put it in corners because this is squared off. Say OK. That time it worked. All those extra nodes are gone. You only have nodes at the corners. In fact, I'm curious about something. Let's undo that. Put all those nodes back in there. Let's do the offset again. This time we'll do it in round and see if that's why it didn't disappear these down there. Because if you're telling it to do round, nope, it still worked there. Don't know why it didn't work down here or wherever it wasn't, didn't work. But offset almost always gets rid of those extra nodes in the middle of a straight line. Now with that done, offset, tools, resize slots and shapes. And here, now see, if we hadn't done the offset, it wouldn't recognize that as a slot because that node was in the middle. But we're changing slot width and 2.7. Now that's 2.7, that's 2.7. I think I did these at something else. Yeah, 2.9. But now that we've changed everything, come on. Selected all, tools, resize slots and selection. Now, if you remember just now, I had this at 2.7, these were at 2.9. We're going to change our slot width, and because I have my tolerance level right here set up to a millimeter, it's going to see all of those slots within a millimeter of 2.9 millimeters, and the new thickness will be 2.7 on all of them. So that's another thing you want to be able to be aware of and use. If you increase your tolerance, sometimes you'll find slots that are close, but they're not all exact. So increase your tolerance level, put in your old material thickness, your new material thickness, and say okay. And now when you look at any of those, it's going to give you the correct thickness, 2.7. Why did that go 2.72? Did I have 2.72 in there? No, that's 2.7. That's 2.7. Why is that? Tools, resize. Let's put this at 2.72 just for grins. Slot width. Put everything at 2.70. Say okay. Huh. That's 2.7. What we try to do just this one. What's going on here? I don't know. I'm doing these in real time with you guys. Don't know why. So it's 2.72 to 2.7. And we want the tolerance to be 0.2. And say okay. For some reason, it's not wanting to resize that to 2.70. Huh. Don't know. But that's easy enough to overcome. We know that this is 2.7. I can say Control D, duplicate that, put it on a toolpath, then select this one, tell it to bullseye them, turn off my toolpath, select that one, delete it, turn on my toolpath, put it back on a cut path. Gotta select it first. There we go. And now that's 2.7. That's 2.7. All right. So hopefully that helps. But this has been a short, my video on a short tutorial about why your slots and tabs don't work in resizing. And like I said, the tip on the work in progress file folder in your art library, that is huge. Huge time saver, and you're not actually having to create a place and you can grab these. These are all projects that I'm working on. And also, this is a great way to, if you're working on something, I don't know if you do this, I do it all the time, and then you forget all about it. Well, if you put it in that work in progress folder, you can always see, okay, oh yeah, I forgot to finish that. Oh yeah, I was working on that a week ago, forgot about that. So that's a great way to keep up with what projects you're working on. So now let me show you this file, a completed project, and the modifications that I made to it. Here, what the changes I made was on the easel. This is the original easel, and it fits into these slots and tabs, which are glued to the back of the image. But this particular image, as is, the artwork would mount right up against there, and in fact it would sit right, actually it'd sit like that. The bottom foot on the easel would sit right against the artwork. Now that helps with stability. It makes it a lot more stable, and this particular project, the artwork actually came right to the bottom of the foot, so it was, you had the four legs here plus the face of the artwork. So it was very, very stable. It wasn't going anywhere. My problem with that, I wanted to have more spacing, and I wanted it to look like it was floating. So let me grab you my project and my take on that and see what you think. Oh, all right. I wished I had a completed project of the original, but I do not. This is my take. It pushes away from the artwork and raises the artwork, and whenever it is sitting, it looks more like it's floating. Now this artwork, none of this is original. None of this is my stuff. This was Patrick's nail cross that he did on Laser Maker's Realm. His artwork for that design. This was shared with me by, like I said, one of my regular viewers and contributors. And I think that's absolutely gorgeous. And that's what I really like about this laser community, is all of the collaboration that takes place. Like I said, this file went through probably 6 or 7 morphs and went through another half dozen more after the live stream. And it's been extremely popular. That's available on my website, Hobo with Wood. Rich has a version on his, and laser and cut files, I can't remember, but go the Louisiana Hobby Guy and go to his forum. You'll find a link to all of his cut files. But this, I have to get permission about putting this out there because, again, this is not my artwork. This is not my frame design, but I've modified it pretty heavily, and I will get permission from both of those guys before I put this out there. So I hope you found this video somewhat interesting and or informative, useful. So this, I've been teasing you with, it's really not that complicated, but that design is the design that I have on the drawer fronts that I created earlier this week or late last week. It all runs together now. Just to give some accents to break up that face of the jewelry box. But I drew all of that, and I'm going to show you how to create that and how to make it perfectly symmetrical and truly your own. But not just that one, several different versions of that file and files like it. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already done that. Thank you to all my patrons for your support. You can find, hopefully you'll be able to find this file once I get permission on hobowithwood.com along with a bunch of other projects. And I appreciate your support. Appreciate you hanging around this long. Didn't really know how this video was going to go. Mine are real time. I don't script anything. And that's why you see the goofs and the errors. And I thank you for watching. Until the next video, I'm Steve, Hobo with Wood, and I'm out.